Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting will come to order. This is the regular meeting of the Land Use and Transportation Committee. I'm Supervisor Malia Cohen, chairwoman of this committee, and to my right is Supervisor Scott Weiner, who is the vice chair of the committee. To my left is Supervisor Aaron Peskin. Our clerk is Ms. Andrea Osbury, and I'd like to take a moment and thank the folks at SFGov TV, specifically Jim Smith and Leo Diasis, for helping us broadcast this meeting. Madam Clerk, do you have any announcements?
Yes, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices. Completed speaker cards and copies of any documents to be included as part of the file should be submitted to the clerk. Items acted upon today will appear on the April 19, 2016 Board of Supervisors agenda unless otherwise stated.
All right, thank you so much. Can you call item number 1?
Item number 1 is an ordinance exempting a humidor from two prohibitions in the tobacco sales permit ordinance.
All right, Supervisor Peskin, you're up. You're the sponsor of this piece of this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisor Weiner. This ordinance is designed to exempt one specific long-term business in District 3 from the aforementioned piece of legislation. By way of background, a couple of years ago, the Board of Supervisors passed an ordinance that limited the number of tobacco sales permits per district to 45 per district. District 3, as most supervisorial districts, has in excess of that number. The way the legislation was developed, there was no ability for an individual with a valid existing permit to move to another location. In this particular instance, the individual who has had this long-term institution is actually the victim of rent increases and has found another location, interestingly enough, in a property that he was once previously located in. And I think actually, as I look back on Code Section 19H, one thing occurred to me, which is that District 3 is actually significantly different than the rest of the city in one profound way, which I know Supervisor Weiner is about to hear, which is that by night, we have the same number of residents as every other district in the city. But by day, by virtue of downtown, as well as by virtue of the remarkable number of tourists that come to the northeast corner of the city, we have hundreds of thousands more people by day. And had I been around representing District 3 in those days, I might have made an amendment that would say that District 3 should have been allowed a more significant number. But as to the business itself, it has been nominated for inclusion in the Legacy Business Registry. You will see the findings there. It has been in operation continuously with no breaks that would in excess of 2 years for over a quarter of a century. It is a family business run by the Bakshi family and employs a number of individuals, and I think this measure is in the public interest and that we should go forward with that. That concludes my comments.
All right, thank you. Why don't we move to public comment at this time? I've got some cards in front of me. Let's call up Ben Bakshi, followed by Fernando Cortez, followed by Ann, followed by Stanley. Welcome. Just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes.
Supervisors, my name is Ben Bakshi. I'm the owner of the Humidor in San Francisco. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before. It also has a lot to do with my livelihood, so I try my best here. This is a small business. It's a family business. I've been in San Francisco for over 20 years, almost 26 years. I would greatly appreciate if you consider allowing me to move into this to this location that I've already occupied in the past, back in 1990s, early 1990s, in the Embarcadero, and this would allow and will continue to flourish my business, and allow me to support my family, and Like I said, I'm married. I've got 2 kids. I still have to put my kids through college. So this is my livelihood, and I'm hoping that I would be able to move back to my original location after I was displaced by the new owner of the building that I was in. They jacked up the rent so much that I couldn't afford it anymore, and I had to give up the space. I would greatly appreciate your considering this a move-up permit for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Fernando Cortez. Thank you for letting me speak. I've worked with Ben since I was in my mid-20s, and he's taken care of me like my father. He's taught me how to run a small business, and I just find that if you guys give him the chance to move in a location that's literally across the street, that'd be great. He's taught me everything I've known so far in running a business, and I feel like anything he's done so far, I owe it to him to at least be there for him in this regard. And I hope that you guys sway and let him move into that location so that we can continue growing this small business. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Stanley Coleman. Just a loyal customer of Ben's. I commute from Fremont area, and I do construction in the city. When I'm downtown, I like to stop by on my way out of town to get a nice cigar to enjoy on the drive home, since the drive is always a little strenuous as it can be. Going down Battery has always been very convenient. Him moving just a couple hundred feet away is more and appreciate that I don't have to drive out of my way through town to look for fine cigars. So I've always enjoyed his employees. They've always been very courteous and professional, and I appreciate that much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Hi, I am Anne Marie Ciccone. I'm with Colliers International. I'm also here on behalf of Boston Properties and Embarcadero Center. Humidor was previously a tenant at Embarcadero Center in the early 90s, and we would very much like to welcome him back to Embarcadero Center. He adds to our current tenant mix. We currently have regional, national, and some local tenants, so we very much like to support the local tenants in San Francisco, especially because we are seeing a huge influx of a lot of national tenants coming to the financial district, that we still like to support the local tenants. Humidor is also a longtime family-owned business with an existing relationship with Boston Properties, and so therefore we would really like to welcome them back. They are a complementary use, a great amenity, and they have an existing client base in the financial district because they are currently located directly across the street from where they would like to relocate now. Thank you for considering changing this and letting them come back to Embarcadero Center.
Thank you. Next speaker.
I'm Peter Nielsen. I'm a real estate broker, and I've known Ben, his brother Javid, and a third brother that's passed away named Harry, and I know they all came as immigrants to this country. They've been very hardworking, very entrepreneurial to get their cigar stores going, and I've shopped there for the occasional celebratory cigar and gifts, and I just hope that you grant the use permit that they're looking for.
Thank you. Are there any other members that'd like to speak on item number 1? Okay, see no one. No other members. Public comment is closed. Supervisor Peskin, is there any last remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for scheduling this, and thank you also for being willing to send it as a committee report for hearing tomorrow at the full Board of Supervisors. If there's no objection or pending Supervisor Wiener's comments, I would like to try to send this to the full board with recommendation without objection as a committee report for April the 12th.
All right, we'll take that under consideration. Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm happy to support this I think, very limited exception. I was a co-sponsor, as were, I think you, Madam Chair, of the legislation that was really designed to reduce the number of tobacco outlets in San Francisco, and it's a very, very important piece of legislation. We know that we need to reduce, particularly in certain neighborhoods, the number of tobacco outlets. But for every rule, there are at times exceptions that you need to consider, and I think that this is one of them. I'm told that this is not an outlet that sells cigarettes or e-cigarettes. This is about a different kind of tobacco. This is a long existing small family-owned business, the kind of business we should be supporting in San Francisco, and it's not adding to the number of tobacco outlets. It's simply allowing a long time existing use to move a few hundred feet away due to something that was entirely outside of their control in terms of a landlord, I think, rather whether it was raising rent or bringing in a higher paying tenant, as so often happens to a lot of our neighborhood businesses these days in San Francisco, unfortunately. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to support a small family-owned neighborhood business without really undermining any of our goals in the legislation around reducing the number of tobacco outlets. So I'm happy to support the motion to send this out with a positive recommendation.
All right, thank you. Seeing that there are no other comments and public comment is closed, there's been a motion made to send this as a committee report to the full board. Did you want to recommend? So let's do that unanimously. Thank you. So that motion passes unanimously. This item will be going to the full board as a committee report. Madam Clerk, could you please call item 2?
Item number 2 is an ordinance amending the Green Building and Environment Code for better roof requirements for renewable energy facilities.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Weiner is the author of this item, item number 2, and will speak and also lead the discussion from this point forward.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This legislation will help us to meet our goal and California's aggressive goal to move towards a clean and renewable energy future and away from fossil fuels, specifically to increase solar energy in San Francisco. The legislation is simple and straightforward. New construction projects between 1 and 10 stories in height will be required to install solar elements on the project's rooftop, either solar panels for electricity or for heating. The legislation was considered and supported unanimously by both the Building Inspection Commission and the Commission on the Environment. Today, California's existing state building code under Title 24 requires most new construction to designate 15% of the building's rooftop area as quote-unquote solar ready. This means free of obstacles and encumbrances so that a future owner of the building can decide whether to place solar panels on the roof. The legislation before us today takes us to the next step by saying that in San Francisco, instead of the roof or 15% of the roof being solar ready, that rather 15% of the roof needs to be solar installed, meaning that solar panels for either electricity or for heating will be placed there as part of the development project. Colleagues, in an era when we are reminded daily, and it should frankly be hourly or by the minute, of our rapidly changing climate, climate change being an existential threat to the future of the planet, it is critically important that we do everything in our power locally and ultimately at a state level, nationally and internationally, to make our built environment more sustainable. Reducing energy consumption and reducing carbon emissions as a result is a significant aspect of a more sustainable city. This legislation, which focuses on solar, is the first part of what will be a two-part effort to promote better use of San Francisco rooftops as new buildings are added to our city. The next ordinance will expand the provisions of this ordinance to promote greener roofs in general. I'd like to thank the staff at the Department of the Environment for their work and support on this legislation. I also want to thank Andres Power in my office for his work. And so, colleagues, if there are no initial questions or comments, I'd like to invite up Barry Hooper from the Department of the Environment to make a brief presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Barry Hooper. I manage the Green Built Environment team at the Department of Environment, and I'm here on behalf of our director, Debbie Raphael, to recommend your approval of this ordinance. So our goals as a city are encapsulated as 0, 50, 100 routes, getting to zero waste, 50% of all trips made by sustainable modes of transportation, 100% renewable energy, and the routes representing putting carbon back into our trees and our soil. So that 100% renewable energy, it depends on both development of renewable energy resources and continued improvement in energy efficiency. In terms of efficiency, San Francisco has led the way. We've adopted energy efficiency standards more frequently than any other city in California, and we continue to provide research by which we'll bring recommendations to you in the future. But today we're talking about the opposite, how to develop those on-site generation resources. And San Francisco, of course, is again a leader there, where the city facilities have received 100% renewable electricity for many years, and Clean Power SF is beginning to offer an entirely renewable electricity option to a wide variety of constituents. This ordinance represents one more pragmatic...
Excuse me, sir, can you please pull up your microphone and speak into the mic so we can
Sure,
get you?
sorry.
Thank you.
Excuse me. The ordinance represents one more straightforward and pragmatic step toward that goal. It's been demonstrated to be highly cost-effective. The ordinance is the product of considerable thought and vetting, and really the key questions that have been before us have been practicality, costs, and benefits. Since 2008, the cost to install solar has gone down 56%, and an extensive cost-effectiveness analysis that was conducted by the Department of Environment, in part in light of that change, recognized that solar photovoltaics are cost-effective on every single type of building that was analyzed within San Francisco's climate zone. We conducted 15 public meetings with a wide array of stakeholders, particularly in partnership with the Department of Building Inspection and the Building Inspection Commission. And we've held innumerable individual meetings, particularly with affordable housing developers, which indicated that in many cases they're ahead of this ordinance and really leading the way in terms of renewable resource development on their new properties. And the result is reasonable and practical. It builds upon an existing piece of state code, it's cost effective, and it's very important in the context of our renewable energy goals, and therefore the Department of Environment recommends your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Why don't we go to public comment at this time?
Here.
Oh, Supervisor Peskin, did you want to
I just had
ask your
a
question
and a comment. The question through the chair to Supervisor Wiener is on page 6. There is a new provision that says any new building of Group B occupancy where electronic data processing will be the primary use is exempt from the solar energy requirements of section 5.201.1.2. Can you explain why that's in there?
I think I'll ask Mr. Hooper to explain that provision.
Sure. That was inserted at the request of a stakeholder who was responsible for actually a city agency that had developed some data centers. And the main issue was practicality, that a data center is typically served by a network of individual rooftop units, and they are arrayed across the entire rooftop. And so it can be more challenging to reserve a specific area for installation of solar on that roof.
So if it was just for one public agency, presumably DT, and we didn't hear from the rest of the stakeholder community, why did we write such a broad exemption?
Well, there are 2 facilities today that are standalone data centers in San Francisco and 1 under construction, so it's a relatively rare use type in general to be constructed, and I think the impact is small.
So if I may respectfully, through the chair to Supervisor Wiener, I think we should probably better define electronic data processing, because clearly the way staff is presenting it, it is a very narrow definition, but the way it's written, it seems like it could apply to a broad swath of building types. So I think we need to noodle over some language. I mean, electronic data processing could be what a lot of people in here do every day, but I think there's a distinction between electronic data processing and a processing center. And I think we have to define it so that this does not end up being an unintended broader loophole than.
Supervisor Preston, thank you for bringing that up. Why don't we, you have my commitment that over the next week, we will try to take a look at appropriate clarifying language, because it's clearly intended to be a very, very narrow category, and you raise what could be a valid point. So you have my commitment that we'll work on language over the next week. And I don't think that would be probably a substantive amendment. We can make that at the full board.
Good,
And
thank you.
then the comment, and it's good that staff from the department is here, is that as we are now requiring the installation of solar, which I'm absolutely supportive of, should we consider the impact on buildings that will be required to install this when other buildings will ultimately shadow those installations? Is it fair for us as a society to say you have to install this thing, and then let's say next to a 10-story building we permit a 20-story building that shadows that roof? Is that a fair thing to do? And I don't expect to answer it in this legislation, but I think it's a conversation that has been had before at the Department of the Environment, and that we should start having at the Board of Supervisors as we start mandating installation.
If you have a comment on that.
Sure. Two parts. It's an insightful question that we definitely have thought about quite a bit. That is actually part of the reason why the trailing legislation that we're working with the planning department on would provide living roofs as a alternate compliance option. So the given developer would have more flexibility to make that judgment about how likely a taller building that would shade their solar system would be to be constructed within the 15 to 20 years after construction. The other factor that we looked at was that given the economic imperative to build to whatever the height limit that you may be allowed to build to at any given time, it is relatively, going to be less frequent that that scenario comes to pass, because we need to first have a new building subject to this ordinance, and then a new building after that to be built to shade the first building. So then we're depending on the second building being permitted, constructed, and delivered within the first 15 to 20 years after the building A in the scenario is completed. Given the construction timeline, we also think that will be relatively rare. But ultimately, a living roof would provide a more flexibility to the applicant.
And just to follow up on that, we are, as to build on what I mentioned briefly in my opening remarks, we are working on trailing legislation that would provide an option that instead of doing the 15% coverage for solar, you could choose instead to do probably 30% green coverage for green roof. And so if you're building a building, let's say that is already shadowed, that might be a very good choice for you. So we're trying to give that flexibility.
If I could just offer one code, if you're building a building that's already shadowed today, under this version, the ordinance wouldn't apply because of that. So, pardon.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to go to public comment at this time. I've got 3 cards in front of me. First up will be Janine Cotter, second by Delaney Lakinchandra, and then Brendan McInerney.
Good afternoon. My name is Janine Cotter. I am the co-founder of Luminalt. We're a local-based solar design build firm. And I'm also a member of the board of directors of CalCEA, which is our state trade organizations for solar installers and rooftop solar in the state of California. And I am here in support of this legislation. San Francisco has always been a leader and continues to be a leader with groundbreaking legislation. This is where we need to go as a planet, and I'm really pleased to be here in support of it. Sebastopol and Lancaster, California, both have mandates, and there's no reason why San Francisco shouldn't lead the way for the large cities in the state. Rooftop solar is a really elegant and efficient way to deal with the greening and decarbonization of our electricity supply. When the panels are generating electricity, they directly serve the electricity load of the building. So when I plug my electric car in when the sun is shining, my car is driving on sunshine. There is no better way to really drive the clean, green energy in San Francisco than providing for distributed generation and rooftop solar. It's the democratization of our electricity supply. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Dalini Lankachandra from Brightline Defense. I'm here in support of this ordinance. It's a very simple way to encourage the creation of solar jobs in San Francisco, as well as increase our capability for distributed generation. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Brendan McEnany. I'm the director of the U.S. Green Building Council's Northern California office. I'm here today to express my organization's support for the proposed ordinance regarding better roof requirements. U.S. Green Building Council has over 12,000 organizational members, 235,000 LEED credentialed professionals, and almost 2 million square feet of buildings certified to our LEED standard every day. Since the inception of our LEED rating system, both green roofs and solar energy systems have been a core part of designing and building green buildings. In both the public and private sectors, San Francisco has been an early adopter of LEED and green buildings. San Francisco is now closing in on 6 million square feet of municipally owned LEED certified space, and a 2015 report by CBRE ranked San Francisco as second best market in the country for green building adoption, where 40% of the total building area has a LEED certification. The statewide Green Building Code, Cal Green, was an enormous step forward to raise environmental performance for all buildings in the state. And yet, with climate change adding new and worsening global risks every day, with California's bold ambition of net zero energy buildings, and with San Francisco's position as a global leader on issues of sustainability and green building, it's clear that we need to raise the bar again. Solar energy systems provide clean, renewable energy to power building systems, reducing buildings' greenhouse gas emissions impact. Costs have dropped dramatically in recent years as the technology moves into a different phase and scale of adoption. Green roofs help mitigate stormwater runoff impacts and sequester carbon. The requirements in the proposed ordinance help make sustainable, productive use of often overlooked space in an area where space is precious and scarce. Change can be difficult in the building construction industry. Investment cycles are long, markets can cool, and estimating future demand can be uncertain. Given these risks, it is important that government policies to improve building performance are thoughtfully crafted. The staff proposal here today is a reasonable, meaningful, and effective step towards meeting policy goals while improving the environmental performance of buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed on this item. Supervisor Peskin, your name was on the, nope,
oh, no,
it's not on the queue. Supervisor Weiner.
Colleagues, again, thank you for hearing this today, and thank you for the members of the public who came out, and also for all the people who have been doing amazing work for many years to expand solar energy here in San Francisco, but around the state and around the country. And it's always a struggle. There have been many fights, but it is an industry that's moving in a good direction, and one that will make our city and our state more sustainable as we continue to combat climate change. So colleagues, I ask for your support, and I move that we forward item 2 to the full Board of Supervisors with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but does this item need to... Oh, no, that's item number 3. All right. All right, a motion has been made without objection. So moved. This motion moves forward with a positive recommendation to the full board. Thank you very much, Supervisor Weiner.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you call item number 3?
Item number 3 is an ordinance amending the general plan revising MAC 5 for the downtown area, Plan Blocks 1 and 2 of the Transbay Redevelopment Plan.
Yes. So, colleagues, this is an item that we continued from our meeting last week. We have the planning department as well as some department reps from OCII here to present
And Madam Chair, I do want to indicate that the Board of Supervisors and this committee is now in receipt of the general plan amendment with regard to the Affordable Housing Density Bonus Program.
All right, thank you very much for that update. Please take it away.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm Joshua Switsky with the Planning Department staff. So the item that's before you today is the amendment, general plan amendment to map 5 of the downtown plan. This item is procedurally related to an item that will be before the full board tomorrow as a committee of the whole, an amendment to the Transbay redevelopment plan for proposed change to the height limit on Block 1. So before I go into the details for the general plan amendment, I think it'll be better to put it in context. I'm going to turn it over to Shane Hart, project manager for the Transbay area for OCII, who will give you a general overview of the Transbay redevelopment project and specifically Block 1, and then I'll get back up to explain how this general plan amendment fits in that context.
Very much.
Thank you, Josh. Chair Cohen, Supervisor Peskin, Supervisor Weiner, good afternoon. My name is Shane Hart, and I work with OCII as the project manager for Transbay. I'd also like to introduce Jose Campos. He's director of our planning and design group within OCII, and Jim Morales, who's our general counsel with OCII. As Josh mentioned, today you'll be taking action on the general plan amendment. Tomorrow, the redevelopment plan amendment for Transbay Block 1 will be coming before the board. The purpose of the redevelopment plan amendment will be to increase the height limit from 300 to 400 feet on Block 1. For today, I thought that it would be helpful to provide some background on Transbay and a brief overview of the Block 1 project. In 1994, the Board of Supervisors established the Transbay Redevelopment Survey Area. In 2002, the Transbay Draft EIR was published. In 2003, the Redevelopment Agency published the Transbay Design for Development. In 2004, the Transbay EIR was certified. In 2005, the Transbay Redevelopment Plan was adopted. Also in 2005, the Rincon Hill Plan was adopted, and then in 2012, the Transit Center District Plan was adopted. The gray area in the middle of this slide is the Transbay Redevelopment Plan area, and its boundary follows blighted conditions within the survey area. At the heart of the redevelopment plan is the Transbay Transit Center. The redevelopment area is divided into 2 zones. Zone 1, the zoning is governed by the Development Controls and Design Guidelines, which is a companion document to the redevelopment plan. And in Zone 1, OCII has land use jurisdiction. For Zone 2, the zoning is governed by the Planning Code, and Planning Department has the land use jurisdiction through a delegation agreement between OCII and the Planning Department. The larger rectangular area in red is the Transit Center District Plan, which was adopted in 2012, which substantially increased the building heights in the area. The affordability requirements within Transbay, Assembly Bill 812 and the Transbay Redevelopment Plan require that 35% of all the units built in Zone 1 and 2 be affordable. The redevelopment plan requires the individual projects within Zone 1 and 2 provided only 15% affordability on site. Within Zone 1, there are 12 blocks currently at various stages of development. Block 6 consists of 479 residential units, and it's nearly complete with construction. Blocks 7, 8, and 9 total about 1,200 units and are all about to begin construction. Block 5 is 770,000 square feet of office space, and it's under construction. And the land sales from the sales of 11 of the 12 blocks goes towards the construction of the transit center. Block 1 is located on Folsom Street between Main and Spear Streets. This slide shows the Block 1 proposed development program and the parcels. The top 2/3 is owned by OCII. It consists of 34,000 square feet. It was purchased by OCII in 2003. The bottom one-third are 4 parcels that are owned by Tishman Speyer, and it consists of about 20,000 square feet. Due to the zoning, the sites must be developed together. They can't be developed separately. Regarding the proposed Block 1 project, the developer is proposing a height increase from 300 to 400 feet. It'll be a mixed income homeownership project consisting of 391 units. The public benefits of the height increase are it increases the total project housing units, and in addition, there will be 44 more affordable units in the tower. 40% of the project units will be affordable, which consists of about 156 units, and they will be available to households earning between 80 to 120% of AMI. The units will be dispersed in the first 26 floors of the tower. There will be a separate homeowner association for the BMR residents. We did find that there were insignificant shadow impacts on the parks. The purpose of this slide is just to show the benefits of the 400-foot height limit versus a 300-foot height limit. And the far right-hand column, again, there's 73 more units overall with the 400-foot scenario. 44 more units would be BMR, which represents, or which translates into about 120 more residents. This is a view of the proposed project looking west from Embarcadero and Folsom. And this is a view from the Bay Bridge, and it shows what the skyline will look like with the proposed project along with the projects that are currently in planning. And with that, I thank you, and I'll hand it over to Josh.
Thank you, Shane. So now that you have the context for Block 1 and the redevelopment area generally, I'll just focus narrowly on the general plan amendment that's before you. So up on the screen you see map 5, which is a height map in the downtown plan. When the Transbay redevelopment area was adopted in 2005, some amendments were adopted as part of that effort, and that included adjusting some of the referenced height limits on the height map. You can see here Zone 1 of the redevelopment area is shown outlined in red, and where their previous heights on the downtown plan map indicated height of 80x, the amendments made at the time removed that reference and added a notation to reference the adopted Transbay redevelopment plan. Unfortunately, there was an oversight, and the adjacent parcels that were labeled as 200S were not similarly labeled with that notation, as neither of those heights, neither at 80X nor 200S, remain the heights in effect once the redevelopment plan was adopted. And again, here are the blocks noted on the map that were left out of that amendment. The entirety of Block 1 and a small piece of Block 2. As you can see, this is a map from the development controls for the Transbay redevelopment plan. The height limit currently of Block 1 is 300 feet, and the height limit of Block 2 is 165. So both of these are out of sync with the existing general plan. And we discovered this oversight when we were doing the general plan consistency findings for this proposed change to the heights of Block 1, and we were advised by the City Attorney's Office that in order to make general plan consistency findings for Block 1 that we needed to correct this earlier oversight to reference the redevelopment plan and erase the old non-applicable height limit of 200 feet. And so that is what is proposed, is essentially an additional notation to the map to say remove the 200S label from Assessor's Block 3740, lots 27, 29, 30, 31, and 32, and Assessor's Block 37, 39, lot 4, and replace it with a notation that says see Transbay redevelopment plan development controls. And so it's as simple as that. Again, the Planning Commission needed to make this amendment in order to adopt the general plan consistency findings for the proposed height change to Block 1. And so this is a precondition of making that finding for the Block 1 height amendment. It does not predetermine the outcome of that proposed amendment. It just brings the existing general plan in conformity with the existing redevelopment plan. And so that concludes our presentation. We're happy to take any questions.
All right, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation, and thank you for being flexible and coming back to us. Let's see if there's any questions with my colleagues. Supervisor Weiner? None? Okay. Peskin? None? Okay. Let's go ahead and take public comment on this item, item number 3. I've got 2 cards in front of me, but if there's any member of the public that'd like to speak on this item, please feel free. I've got Adrian, Simi, and Alice. Please come on up and speak at this time.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Adrian Simi, representing Carpenters Local 22, about 3,200 carpenters here in San Francisco. Normally I'd come up and speak about jobs, and I'll get to that in a minute, but what this amendment does is provide housing. It's below market rate housing, affordable housing for San Francisco, and that's really what's most important in San Francisco today. We hope that you would forward this amendment to the Board of Supervisors. It's going to provide jobs, benefits, health, welfare for young San Franciscans, carpenters at a Local 22 and other locals, and a place to work and much needed housing for San Francisco to add to that market housing. We need that. We need the housing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Supervisors Cohen, Peskin, and Weiner. My name is Elise DeRozier. I'm a resident of Rincon Hill. I'm here to represent the neighborhoods, and community groups in opposition to increasing the height from 300 to 400 feet on this project. I'll address 3 issues before you today: compliance with the Transit Center District Plan, the Environmental Impact Report, and the financial deal. Compliance. The Transit Center District Plan, as you know, was enacted after over 6 years of public review and comment to ensure that all buildings within the district will conform to the design and guiding principles of the plan. Most importantly, building heights tapering down to the waterfront with a view from the northern perspective of the city, and starting with the highest point, the Salesforce Tower. Block 1 was designated to be 300 feet. A 400-foot building on Block 1 does not conform to the stepping down. It's an outlier amongst other buildings that were required to conform to the height limits. Specifically, the Gap at 214 feet, Hills Plaza is 228 feet, the Infinity at 350 feet. Allowing a 100-foot height increase adversely impacts this established urban form, particularly from the perspective of the waterfront. It's literally 1 block away. The building is not only an outlier, but it's a slippery slope. The developer at Block 4 across the street on Howard at Main and Beale will soon come before planning. Approving this project to go an additional 100 feet makes it highly likely the developer on Block 4 will also request a 100-foot height increase to go from 400 to 500 feet. The EIR. The city has failed to require a revised EIR. The 2006 EIR is outdated and cannot adequately assess the project's impact on traffic, wind, and noise. While this is true for a 300-foot building, it's most certainly not true for a 400. On the financial side, the city has...
That's it. Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on item number 3? Nope. Okay. Is there a motion? We need to send this specifically as a committee of the whole on the redevelopment plan amendments. So it's as it is agendized.
I'm just curious. Do we know yet what the district supervisor's position is on this project or any of the issues raised?
Yeah.
We've heard public comment. We've also received letter, and I've just never got any sense on what the district supervisor's, Supervisor Kim's position is on this.
Supervisor Kim has not indicated her position. My office reached out to her last week and again today prior to this committee, and we don't have firm confirmation as to where she is on this item, this issue.
Was it that they said that she did not have a position, or you just didn't get a response?
We got no response.
Okay. I mean, I know, as I mentioned last week, that she had announced that she had gotten a commitment of 40% from this project, and then we learned that the developer is doing 20% and taxpayers are paying for the other 20%. But that's the last I heard. I don't know if Supervisor Peskin has anything to add in terms of what.
Supervisor Peskin has indicated that he's going to reserve his remarks for tomorrow. There'll be an opportunity to talk to Supervisor Kim as well as the full board at the full board meeting, which, just as a reminder, we'll be sitting as a committee as the whole to hear this item.
So tomorrow, I should
say here 160 full.
So tomorrow we're going to hear the full merits of the project.
That is correct. Yep. So I know I will have a few questions that I want to ask staff specifically about some project concerns that I have about the additional shadow. I have questions about the valuation of the parcel versus the previous sale of the Transbay plan area. But I will wait till tomorrow. So, Madam Clerk, I think we need to have a motion. Is that correct?
Yes, it's going as a committee report for this item.
All right, may I have a motion so this can go forward to the full board as a committee report? I need a motion. All right, a motion made by Supervisor Peskin, and your motion was unanimous. Thank you so much. All right, could you please call item number 4?
Item number 4 is an ordinance commemorating 2 locations of the Mission Street sidewalk in honor of the childhood homes of Jerry Garcia.
All right. The wonderful supervisor from District 11 is the author of this item, and he has joined us today in the chamber. Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, Chair Cohen. And yes, it's been a long time I've been working on this. It's been a long, strange trip. And here we are with legislation before us to authorize the installation of sidewalk plaques at 2 locations in the Excelsior District. These locations are close to the childhood home of Jerry Garcia. He was born and raised in San Francisco on August 1st, 1942. And while Garcia and the Grateful Dead are most commonly associated with the Haight-Ashbury District, Garcia grew up in the Excelsior District. He lived his first 5 years at 121 Amazon Avenue, and after his father's death, Jerry and his brother moved in with his maternal grandparents at 87 Harrington Street. The Harrington Street house was such an important part of his childhood that the only book Garcia ever wrote was an illustrated memoir of his childhood titled Harrington Street, not Shakedown Street. The 3x3 bronze plaques will be on Mission Street, where they will get the most foot traffic and encourage visitors to walk between the 2 plaques on the Mission Commercial Corridor. We have been working very closely with the Garcia family on the language and the design of these plaques. We have Mr. Murphy, who's also here, has been helping doing Jerry Garcia Day out in the Jerry Garcia Amphitheater and was part of the naming of the amphitheater for him. This is part 2 of a lot of the work that people in the neighborhood have been doing to honor the legacy of Jerry Garcia in San Francisco, in the Excelsior. Beth Byrne generously donated her time to design the first plaque for the Harrington street corner. It incorporates a classic Herb Green photo of Jerry with a picture of the Harrington Street house by former Examiner photographer Mike Kuzman. The Arts Commission Civic Design Review Committee is scheduled to review the design next Monday. We are still working with the Jerry Garcia family on the design of the second plaque at the corner of Amazon, but it will likely also will have a Herb Green photo as well. We are working with Artworks Foundry to forge the plaques. They will be using the same materials and process that produced the excellent plaques for the Rainbow Walk of Fame in the Castro. This ordinance waives the permit and inspection fees associated with the installation, and it adds these 2 locations, one at Mission and Harrington, the other at Mission and Amazon, to the city's official commemorative map of commemorative sites. And last year, we also set aside funding in the budget to be able to have for constructing the first plaque. We'll be using community fundraising for the second plaque, which we hope to go in later this year. Commemorating the homes of Jerry Garcia will celebrate Jerry Garcia's unique contributions to the social and cultural life of the city and help promote the significant role of the Excelsior District and how it played in his formative years of this unique San Franciscan that's known throughout the world. So, colleagues, that's what I have for my presentation. I have, if you're interested, I can pass out to you maps of the first location and design. I don't have them handy to put up on the overhead, but I can pass those to you here. And we can go to public comment.
Supervisor Avalos, congratulations. This is exciting news. And for the neighbors that are here from District 11, congratulations. I grew up in the southeastern part of the city, not too far from D11 in the Portola neighborhood, and have frequented the McLaren Park, particularly the Jerry Garcia amphitheater. So this is a really exciting time to have a plaque commemorating one of our native sons. This is excellent. So I know there was a lot of community organizing that took place and a lot more that will need to take place in order for this to come to fruition. So I just want to applaud the neighbors that are here with us and that are in the chamber, and also those that are not but are at home possibly watching. So let's go ahead and open up public comment at this time. Please come up to the podium and speak. You'll have 2 minutes to speak whether you're in favor or opposed to this proposal. Come up to the microphone, to this podium over here. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Jackie DeLuca Harbor. I flew in last night from San Diego, California for this meeting. I will be flying out this evening. Jerry Garcia is a ripple effect in many lives. That's why we're here to represent him. When he did pass away, I could not come from Columbus, Ohio, where I was living at the time, out to San Francisco to be at the polo fields to represent him. But I thought it was very important today to be here. I did bring a copy of the book. I don't know how to get this on the camera here, but
you can put it on
the thing on your right.
Yes,
like right here.
The overhead projector.
Okay, thank you. So
SF TV. There we go.
There, I did bring a copy of the Jerry Garcia Harrington Street book with me during my travels, and the main reason I came was just to support this idea that has been brought to you, and thank you for your time. And I appreciate all that you're here to do, because there's a lot of people out there in this world that couldn't be here today to tell you how important Jerry and Jerry's life and what he has taught us, how to be kind and loving to Mother Earth as well as to others. There again ripples on in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Welcome. I'd like to welcome the next speaker. Thank you.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Linda Lighthizer. I live in District 11. I'm very much in support of this project. I'm also the chair of a group called FACE, Friends and Advocates of Crocker Amazon and the Excelsior, and we are mentioned in the legislation as being a group that took on the role as custodian for these plaques, and we will monitor their care and upkeep over the years, as well as working with DPW to do actual repair or other needs if that should arise. We're very excited about this. This has been a project that we've talked about and advocated for since 2003. We hope that the Jerry plaques will be part of what will eventually become an Excelsior Walk of Fame, something similar to the Rainbow Walks in the Castro and the Barbary Coast Trail. In other parts of the city. We have much to celebrate about the history of our community, and we are very proud of the work that Supervisor Avalos has done to support our efforts to support that history. Our neighborhood has had very many people in its debt over the past years, and many more to come, who will be deserving of plaques like this, but this is particularly close to our hearts because of the work that we have done in the community to support Jerry's legacy in the community, what with the naming of the amphitheater and other projects along that way. We also are grateful to Supervisor Avalos for his work in helping us get street names, historic street names, recognized in our community. China, Japan, and India are now part of that Walk of Fame. So thank you so much, and we hope that this will pass.
Thank you, Linda Lighthizer. And I also want to thank you for working on this so many years, as well as your volunteering the work of Friends and Advocates of Crocker Amazon, the Excelsior, to do the everyday, day-to-day maintenance and upkeep. It's really great that you're continuing that work. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wayne Heemer. At first, when I saw the white rabbits out front, I thought there's something going on for Paul Kantner. Anyway, My wife, Karen Burke at the time, knew Jerry. She couldn't come today. She knew Jerry Garcia in grade school, middle school, and high school, just by meeting him in the neighborhood in the Excelsior. She told me that Jerry Tarboni, whose father owned a butcher's shop, grocery shop at Mission and San Juan, and Tony Esposto and Ray Ramirez would meet Jerome Garcia every day at Mission and Harrington Street to walk to Denman Middle School and smoking. How does she know that? She's still good friends with Ray Ramirez, calling him yesterday to wish him a happy birthday. I think it would be very appropriate to have street plaques honoring the memory of Jerry Garcia in the Excelsior. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamer. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name's Rachel, and I just wanted to say thank you to the community. I'm new to San Francisco, and the way that you guys have preserved the history and the legacy of the values, and this is the most amazing place, and I'm very grateful to people like Tom and all the people that keep the music and the community alive, and I think these plaques would be a really nice addition, so as people are walking through, they can be curious about the history and learn about the legacy and ask questions and be inspired. So I appreciate anything that you guys do as a city to continue to inspire art and music and culture and love, and I love you guys. Peace.
Thank you. I think I said Mike Murphy, but Tom Murphy.
Thank you. Thank you, supervisors. This has been, like John said, a long, strange trip, but all good things and all good times. Thanks to the Jerry Garcia family, the community at large, and the city and county of San Francisco. And thank you to Jeremy Pollock for helping out with all of this, Supervisor John Avalos, Malia Cohen for scheduling this, and the rest of the supervisors. And Jackie from traveling from San Diego. Thank you. This is a very important project and embraces a cultural asset within the city. And, you know, as we know, we've been very blessed over the last 50 plus years to have the Grateful Dead originate from San Francisco. I'm hoping we can embrace more cultural assets like this and protect them for the long haul. This is truly only a San Francisco moment. It's been a lot of years in the making, and I really appreciate you guys supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge your hard work in organizing the annual Jerry Garcia Day. Thank you.
Thank you. We just have, I want to show what the current, the first design looks like, and Jeremy Pollock will bring it up.
All right, let's go ahead and close public comment at this time. All right, Jeremy, it's all yours.
Okay, there it is.
You want to describe to us what we see?
So this is it's a photo by Herb Green. In the background, we have a drawing that Jerry Garcia. There was a drawing Jerry Garcia made himself of his house, or that was taken from a photograph.
This is a photo of the house from that was in the Examiner article that Mike Kuzman from the Examiner allowed us to use. But as the public commenter showed, the cover was a cover of the same house that Jerry painted on his book, Harrington Street.
And so this was also a quote from Jerry Garcia himself, and the family, the Jerry Garcia family, had approved of this design themselves. It was made by Beth Byrne, who we just sent off when she was leaving her job at Livable City. We had her at the board giving her commendation. She's now in Oregon. This is something she's very proud of working on, and especially getting the support of the family. It's a very famous photograph of Jerry Garcia. He's holding up his hand that's missing one of his fingers.
Right,
anything else to add, Mr. Pollock?
I think that does it justice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very much. Is there a motion, colleagues, maybe to move this out with a positive recommendation? All right. That motion has been made by Supervisor Peskin, and without objection, this motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to all the folks that have worked very hard. We're almost there.
Thank you, and thank you for your co-sponsorship, Chair Cohen.
My pleasure, Mr. Avalos. All right, Madam Clerk, is there any other business before this body?
There's no further business.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.